We continue adding stitches to our fall 2020 stitch along, the Midnight Pumpkin. This is Laura Bosma with Pretty Penny Precuts in your Southeastern Quilt and Textile Museum. We're going to be working on another couching stitch. Again, couching stitches hold something down, and I call this a continuous fly stitch. You may find it in your embroidery book if you own one as a fern stitch, or sometimes people would refer to it as a feather stitch. It's not quite a feather stitch, but you kind of get the idea. What I encourage you to do, and it will be in your direction sheet, is to hopefully you've saved these waste papers. And the reason I have you save the waste papers is every once in a while, there will be markings on them. Now I've highlighted them in pencil, but I want to show you what I mean. So they have a perforation that kind of is an example of what you might use for stitching detail. So rather than reinvent the wheel here, I've just highlighted over those little dashed lines with pencil so that you can truly see it. On the larger leaf, there are no lines, but I basically kind of looked at how this little one was marked and did likewise with this one. So I got ahead of you a little bit. I've stitched this one small leaf. I've stitched half of the big leaf, but hopefully when I remove it, you can kind of see there's the line I drew there and there's the line I drew there. From light to medium fabrics, wool fabrics, you can get away with a mechanical pencil, and I didn't include one in your kit if you bought the Floss and No Shank kit. Otherwise, you might already, if you're a quilter, have several different kinds of marking tools or chalk. Definitely use that. I do like a leaded pencil, but I just caution you, and I'll always caution you about marking. We're not marking it so dark you can see it from 10 feet away. Mark it just dark enough for you to see it from 10 or 12 inches away, whatever your stitch distance is between your eye and the actual work. So please don't get too carried away marking, just enough to highlight it and see it. And so what am I going to do? Well, I could lift this off and just freehand it, but the other thing that you can do, which is what I did on this one, was to lay down, I've got my graphite or my pencil mark there, and I just poked through the parchment paper and kind of rocked twice. And then I moved about 1/8 of an inch away, and I just rocked twice. And believe it or not, we should, when I lift it up, see enough of a road map that I can connect the dots. Or maybe you're savvy enough you don't even need to connect the dots. That's good enough. Well, it didn't mark too good that time, so let me try it again. Let me try again. Interesting. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to lift it this time and see if I'm on track. Yeah. It's doing okay. The other thing you can do, honestly, this is parchment paper, and it does quote-unquote break or tear really easy, is, you can simply just drag your pencil through, and you'll be tearing that as you go, but that will mark it as well. And again, might be hard for you to see. I'm going to move it up to the camera in just a second, but we're marking it just dark enough for the stitcher to see, which is me. So I believe you can see my pencil mark as a guideline to follow. And then I would do likewise with this smaller one. I'm not going to mark that one, but you get the idea. You can either kind of draw the lines over the dashed mark, as I've done here, and then just lay it down and kind of tear through and mark, or you can do the dots and then connect the dots. Whatever works for you best. That's how you'd mark the second one. We are back to using this wonderful Amazon green, and this was your Floss 4066. If you heard me talk about these color variation threads, I like them because I kid you not, when I dye the wools, those threads are dead on. Again, they're getting harder to find. So if you love it and you want more, I would seek out a source and grab it while you can. With the fly stitch, I'm starting away from myself up here, but let me show you a little bit of directions. If you were with us for the third project in our summer sew along, we talked about a fly stitch. So here's my little cheat sheet. Again, I stated at that time, this was not an intuitive stitch for me. I finally had one of our guild members who had taken some classes with Judith Baker Montano explain it to me. And Judith uses this little ditty shoulder, shoulder, belly button. Believe it or not, that's not a bottle, that's a torso. So here's a neck, here's a shoulder, and a belly button. And that's how she teaches this stitch. Standing alone, it would make really good detail on any kind of a bug or a bird, but connected together, it's awesome detail on a tree or on a leaf, and that's why I like it. So I'm going to come from the back to the front on the work, which is right here, and I'm going to come up through our deep teal right there. Can you see my needle move around right there? And I am outside the work. I'm not stepping on the green just yet. I'm going to draw my thread down. Again, remember, I'm one for using that thread as a roadmap. I'm going to come a little bit longer than 1/4 inch, and I'm going to go to the back. And from the back, I'm going to swoop back up, and about 1/8 inch away from where I came out, I'm going to come back up. So imagine that this is the neck, and this right here where the needle barrel went is the belly button. And where the needle barrel comes out, that's your first shoulder. So that's my left shoulder. So it draws me a straight line, which is the vine of the leaf, and then I've got one shoulder. Now I'm going to create a U-shaped or part of a circle facing towards my own belly, and I'm going to go in this first one about 1/8 inch away from the top. And I'm going to swoop down, and I'm going to come in at the base of my thread. So where that was a belly button, once we finish this stitch, we'll rename it as a neck. So I've got shoulder, shoulder, belly button, which is where I came up. And again, I'm coming inside that half circle, and there's my first vein detail. So what was my belly button, I'm now going to call a neck, and I'm going to draw myself from neck to a new belly button. Again, a little bit more than 1/4 inch down. I'm going to swoop up to the outside, and not more than 1/4 inch away, I'm going to swoop up. So I'm at neck, belly button, left shoulder. Pull my needle out, swoop my thread halfway around, come to this side about 1/4 inch away, and then come back out where that belly button is. And that's stitch number 2. So I hope you see what we're doing here. And again, I'll just do a couple more so that you get the idea. And you would just vary the length and width of these depending on how much space you have to travel. I'm going to make it a little narrower on this side, but I've got more leaf detail on this side, so I'm going to make it longer on that side. Just play with it, again, if you don't like the stitch that you make, pull it out and do it again. And again, following that vein, I'm going to go out. This time, I'm going to actually come up. You can come up on the outside, but to really hold that little bitty point down, I'm going to come up about 1/16 inch away inside that leaf to hold that part down. Swoop down, come over, and then come back out through my belly button. And I love this stitch. Once I learned to make it successful, I use it all the time. Now running this one, there's probably room for one more in this direction, and then I maybe add another vein and create some smaller detail here. It's all a personal choice thing. I just want to put enough coverage over the leaf that I've embellished it, I've added detail, and I know it's going to hold the leaf down. So let me show it to you flat again. Again, I really love the hand-dyed fabrics wools that I do, but you can see the difference. As beautiful as this is, it's magnificent once it's got stitches on it. So go forth and stitch to your heart's content, filling in all 3 leaves with this continuous fly stitch. Again, it takes some practice, but it's one that is well worth mastering for your embroidery work or your wool applique work. See you in the next video, and we're going to move on to step 9, and that'll be a colonial knot inside these flowers.